I was half awake when it happened. You know that groggy, half-dreaming state where checking your phone feels like a reflex, not a choice? That's where I was. One eye open, thumb dragging across the screen, trying to convince myself the world could wait a few more minutes. The usual stuff blinked back at me. Missed emails, pointless group chats, another news alert I didn't care about. Routine. Harmless. And then, in the middle of all that digital noise, one notification stood out. Not because it was important, because it was impossible. A message. From him. The name burned against the lock screen like it was mocking me. My chest went cold, heavier with every second I stared at it. I blinked once, twice, convinced my brain was playing tricks. But no, it was there. His name. The same contact I hadn't seen in months. The same contact I had sworn I'd never see again. He was dead. It wasn't like an accidental, but dial from an old number still active, either. This was different. His picture, his saved contact, his name exactly the way it had been the night I got the call that he was gone. Months of silence shattered by one glowing rectangle in my palm. My first instinct. Denial. I'd seen glitches before. Phones hiccup, servers mess up, ghosts in the machine, and all that. But the longer I stared, the harder it was to breathe. Because this wasn't random. The preview text on the notification contained a phrase only he ever used. 3 stupid words that had no meaning to anyone else but us. That was when the dread hit, slow and deliberate, spreading through me like ice water. I should have deleted his contact the day he died. I should have ignored it, pretended it never appeared, powered the phone off, and gone back to sleep. But curiosity doesn't care about common sense. Curiosity always wins, even when it drags you someplace you shouldn't go. Especially then. My thumb hovered over the screen, shaking. Every part of me screamed not to look, not to open it, not to confirm that something was very, very wrong. But hesitation has never been my strength. And fear? Fear only made me move faster. I tapped the notification. And when I tapped it, I realized this wasn't a mistake. To understand why this matters, I need to go back. Before that night, my life was nothing special. And maybe that's why what happened rattled me so deeply, because it forced its way into a world that was painfully, comfortably ordinary. Most mornings, my phone was nothing more than an alarm clock I hated. The snooze button was my most used feature. I'd roll out of bed too late, curse under my breath, and convince myself coffee could make up for the lost minutes. Same ritual every day. Work, messages, scrolling through memes to avoid reality. It was a loop I'd grown numb to, a loop I thought couldn't be broken. And then there was him. If I'm honest, I didn't delete his contact because I couldn't. Seeing his name in my phone felt safer than erasing it. Like if I held onto the data, I could hold onto the person. His name was Alex. We'd been friends since high school, the kind of friendship that's built out of inside jokes, dumb dares, and endless hours of wasting time together. He had this habit of sending me one-word messages, completely out of context, just to throw me off. Stuff like walrus, or blender, or parachute. That was his thing. He loved watching me squirm until I demanded an explanation, only for him to laugh and say, "It'll make sense eventually." Spoiler, it usually didn't. When he died, those words became little ghosts in my head. I'd scroll through old conversations and laugh in that hollow, broken way people do when humor and grief collide. Everyone else seemed to move on. They posted their tributes, said their goodbyes, and let time wash him away. But I kept his number saved. I couldn't let it go. Life after Alex wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Too quiet, sometimes. I'd go to work, come home, watch TV, mindlessly scroll, and try to convince myself that was enough. Every so often, I'd glance at my contacts, see his name there, and feel a mix of comfort and guilt. Comfort because some part of him still existed in my world. Guilt because I knew it was only a placeholder for someone who'd never answer again. There were moments, though, when I thought I noticed something off with my phone. Notifications would flicker and vanish before I could read them. The battery would drain in strange bursts. Sometimes I'd feel a phantom vibration in my pocket when the phone wasn't even with me. Normal glitches, right? Everyone's phone acts up sometimes. I told myself that constantly. But I remember one night in particular, weeks before the notification, when I was lying in bed scrolling through old photos. My phone froze, screen locked in place on a picture of Alex and me, grainy, blurry, smiling like idiots in some fast food parking lot. The phone wouldn't respond, no matter how many times I tapped it. And just as I was about to force restart it, the screen blinked back to life, like nothing happened. I brushed it off. Laughed about it, even. Guess you're haunting me already, huh? I muttered to the empty room. I never expected the joke to stick. Looking back, that was probably the first crack in the glass. The first sign that something wasn't right, that maybe Alex hadn't fully left when everyone else thought he had. But at the time, I buried it. Just another glitch. Another weird moment in a long chain of ordinary days. If only I'd taken it seriously. It started small. Small enough that I could laugh it off, tell myself it was nothing, blame it on the phone instead of what it really was. The first time, it was just a weird timestamp. I'd wake up, check my phone, and see a notification had popped up at, say, 3:12 a.m., a time when I knew for certain I was asleep, and my phone should have been silent. But when I swiped down to check, the notification was gone. No app listed, no trace in the history. Just there one moment, gone the next. I figured it was a software hiccup. Phones are complicated little monsters, right? Sometimes they get things wrong. But then it escalated. My phone would light up at odd hours, buzzing against my nightstand like I had a message. When I'd pick it up, the lock screen would be empty. No missed calls, no texts. Just the soft glow of nothing. One night, I could have sworn it vibrated in my pocket, that ghostly little tremor that makes you instinctively reach for it. Except, I wasn't carrying my phone. It was charging across the room. You can call that paranoia. I called it stress. At least, I tried to. But then there were the screenshots. Scrolling through my gallery one afternoon, I found 3 images I hadn't taken. All black backgrounds, faint gray text at the bottom, saved. That was it. No app icon, no metadata I could trace. Just empty pictures of nothing. I deleted them instantly. Didn't even stop to think. And yet, deleting didn't help. The next morning, they were back. Still, I kept trying to rationalize. Bugs happen. Maybe I've got some malware. Maybe I'm just sleepwalking and messing with my own phone. It was easier than the alternative. But deep down, I knew better. Because the first real notification came 3 days later. And it wasn't vague. It was a message. From Alex. I remember the moment in perfect clarity. I was at work, sitting at my desk, pretending to focus on emails. The buzz of the phone cut through everything, sharp and insistent. I glanced down, ready to ignore it, until I saw the name. His name. And below it, the message preview. Just one word. Walrus. The same stupid, random word he used to text me all the time. A word no one else in the world would have thought to send. My stomach dropped. My hands shook so violently, I almost dropped the phone. I tapped the screen open, desperate to see more, to prove to myself this was a prank, a misfire, anything. But the message was gone. Vanished. No thread, no history. It was like it had never been there. I stared at my contact list, half expecting his name to vanish too. But no, it sat there stubbornly, like a reminder. Alex. Frozen in place. I wanted to believe someone was messing with me, but how? His number had been deactivated after he died. I knew because his family told me. And even if it hadn't, who would think to resurrect one of his dumb inside jokes just to mess with me? That was when I realized this wasn't about someone. It was about him. It was impossible. Ridiculous. But undeniable. I didn't tell anyone. Not my coworkers, not my family, not my friends. Who would believe me? Who wouldn't laugh in my face, tell me it was stress, tell me to go outside and get some sun? So I kept it to myself. Pretended it didn't happen. Until it happened again. This time, it wasn't at work. It was at night, in my apartment, lights off, lying in bed. I was staring at the ceiling, trying to ignore the faint hum of the refrigerator, when my phone lit up. Buzz. Another message. Another preview. This one wasn't just a word. It was a sentence. You're not sleeping. And the worst part? He was right. I didn't panic right away. That's the part that still surprises me. You'd think after getting a message from someone dead, I'd throw the phone across the room or call the cops, or at least, I don't know, react. But no. Instead, I did what everyone does when the world tilts sideways. I opened Google. Phantom text messages. Ghost notifications. Deactivated number still sending messages. Hundreds of results flooded in. Tech forums, Reddit threads, articles with clickbait titles like 10 creepy glitches your phone might have. I scrolled until my eyes blurred, clinging to every rational explanation. Some guy on a forum swore he'd had the same thing happen when his provider recycled an old number. Another user insisted it was just cached data left over from old backups. Ghost messages, they called them. Not ghosts, plural. Just data echoes. I latched onto that word, echo. That felt safe. Logical. Nothing supernatural about an echo. But deep down, something gnawed at me. None of those threads mentioned messages disappearing. None of them talked about words that fit, words that cut too close. Walrus. You're not sleeping. Those weren't echoes. They were specific. They were him. Still, denial is a powerful drug. I told myself it was possible. Maybe someone hacked me. Maybe some troll figured out enough about my past to impersonate him. People catfish with less. I even called my service provider, mumbling through excuses about strange texts and asking if old accounts could be spoofed. The guy on the other end chuckled like I was paranoid, said, "Nah, if the line's deactivated, it's dead. Only way you're getting messages is if someone's cloned your phone." That didn't make me feel better. At all. I tried to move on. Really, I did. But the thing about paranoia is it doesn't let you move forward. It loops you. Every buzz, every flicker of the screen felt like a warning. I found myself staring at my phone constantly, waiting for something to happen. And the internet wasn't helping. The more I searched, the more I stumbled into darker corners. Old archive threads, posts people had deleted but were still cached. Stories about people getting calls from numbers that no longer existed. Posts where people swore their dead relatives had messaged them, only for the threads to be locked, accounts deleted, entire discussions scrubbed clean. That should have been comforting. Other people experienced this too. Instead, it terrified me. Because if it was happening to others, why weren't those stories still online? Why did they vanish? I remember sitting there, bathed in the glow of my monitor, heart pounding as I read a line from one of those threads before it disappeared. If you're reading this, don't reply. Don't open it. That's how it gets in. The page blinked out before I could screenshot it. That was the moment my denial cracked. Because if this was just a glitch, why would people warn against it? Why would they call it it? Like it was something alive. I didn't have the answer. All I knew was that the next time my phone buzzed, I wasn't going to be able to stop myself. And that was exactly what it wanted. The next time it happened, I didn't just get a notification. I got a conversation. It started on a Tuesday night. I was on the couch, the TV murmuring in the background, my phone balanced on my knee. I wasn't even thinking about it, just scrolling through meaningless posts, killing time. That's when the buzz came. I glanced down and froze. His name again. Alex. The preview showed only one sentence. "Why are you ignoring me?" My chest tightened. I opened the thread before I could stop myself. And there it was, a full message chain, clean as if it had never been deleted. Only it had. I'd wiped it months ago after his funeral. Yet here it was, reconstructed, and at the bottom, his newest text. "Alex, why are you ignoring me?" My hands trembled as I typed a reply. Every keystroke a mistake I knew I'd regret. "Me, who is this?" The three little dots appeared instantly. Someone, or something, was typing back. "Alex, you know who this is." I swallowed hard, pulse hammering in my ears. Logic screamed at me that it was someone messing with me. But then another message popped up. "Alex, remember the night we got locked out of the diner?" I froze. Nobody else would have known about that. It wasn't some big story. It wasn't online. It was one of those small, dumb memories only we shared. We'd been 17, stuck outside in the cold for an hour, laughing until our stomachs hurt. How could anyone else know? I stared at the screen, unable to type. Then another message came. "Alex, you still owe me $5. That broke me. My breath hitched, half a laugh, half a sob. He always joked about that. Even though it was a lie, I didn't know him anything. It was his running gag. And yet here it was, alive again on my screen. I finally typed back. "Me. If this is really you, prove it. The dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Whoever, or whatever, was on the other end seemed to hesitate. Then a reply hit. Alex, check your kitchen counter. I frowned. The kitchen was dark, silent. I stood, heart pounding, and walked in. And there, on the counter, was my spare key. Out of place, sitting dead center. I hadn't touched it in weeks. I went back to the couch, throat dry, and saw the next message waiting. Alex, told you. I dropped the phone. It clattered against the floor, but I didn't care. This wasn't possible. This wasn't rational. And yet it was happening. When I picked it back up, more messages were already coming. Alex, I don't like where I am. Alex, it's dark. Alex, it's loud. Alex, it never stops. I typed back in a panic. Me, where are you? The response was instant. Alex, not here, but close. A chill ran through me. My hands shook so violently I could barely hold the phone. Then another message. Alex, don't ignore me again. The screen dimmed, as if the battery had died, but the phone was still charged. The whole thread vanished before my eyes. No record, no proof. Just me, staring at a blank screen, wondering if I'd finally lost it. I didn't sleep that night. Every buzz of my phone made me flinch, waiting for another message. Waiting for him. When morning came, I convinced myself I'd dreamed it. Maybe I'd imagined everything. Stress can do that, right? That's what I told myself, until lunchtime. Another notification. This time it didn't just appear. It spoke. My phone buzzed once, and the lock screen lit up with text that seemed to burn into me. Look outside. Against every instinct, I did. There, across the street, stood a man in a hoodie, head down, still as a statue. I couldn't see his face. I couldn't see his hands. Just the outline of someone who shouldn't have been there. And then my phone buzzed again. Told you I'm close. From that point on, it stopped being about messages. The boundaries between my phone and my life blurred, like whatever this was had grown tired of hiding in pixels and wanted more space. The first bleed through came the following night. I'd left my phone charging on the nightstand, screen down. I woke to the sound of it buzzing, vibrating so hard it rattled against the wood. When I flipped it over, my lock screen was glowing with words I didn't want to see. Answer me. But there wasn't a call. No text thread. Just the words, burning against the glass. I held my breath, staring until the screen dimmed on its own. Then, silence. My room felt colder, heavier, like the shadows themselves were leaning closer. The next day, it got worse. Photos on my phone began to distort. Pictures I'd taken days before twisted in my gallery. Smiling faces warped into blurs, backgrounds blackened, and in one of them, my reflection in a cafe window, there was a second figure standing just behind me. Hood pulled low, face obscured. I hadn't been alone when I took that photo. At least, I thought I hadn't. By then, sleep was a joke. Every buzz jolted me upright. Every notification made my chest tighten. And they kept coming. Sometimes blank. Sometimes single words. Sometimes entire sentences that felt less like messages and more like commands. Don't leave the lights off. Check under the bed. I can hear you breathing. I told myself it was him, Alex, but deep down I wasn't sure anymore. The tone had shifted. It wasn't playful or even familiar. It was colder, hungrier. And then came the GPS ping. I hadn't even opened maps. My phone just lit up one evening with a location alert. You've arrived at your destination. Except I was sitting at home. The address it listed wasn't mine. It was 6 blocks away, an abandoned storefront I hadn't thought about in years. I didn't go. Couldn't. But the next message that came chilled me more than the ping itself. You were supposed to. That was when the thought first entered my mind. Maybe this wasn't Alex at all. Maybe it was something else. Using him, wearing his voice and his memories like bait. But every time I doubted, it dangled something specific. A joke only he'd know. A reference to a night only we'd lived. Enough to pull me back in. Enough to keep me hooked. And maybe that was the point. The paranoia bled into every part of my life. I'd be in meetings at work, half listening, half waiting for my phone to buzz. Walking home, I'd check every reflection, convinced I'd see someone behind me. My friends started noticing, asking if I was okay. I lied. Of course I lied. What was I supposed to say? My dead best friend won't stop texting me, and I think he's watching from outside my window. Even I didn't believe it, and I was the one living it. Then came the call. It was around 2 a.m. My phone rang, vibrating violently against the nightstand. Caller ID. Unknown. Against every instinct, I answered. Static filled my ear, harsh and grating, like standing inside a thunderstorm. But beneath it, I heard him. His voice. Weak, strained, like he was fighting through layers of noise. Please. That single word froze me. And then, clearer, sharper. Help me. The line cut. My screen went black, dead for a full minute before it rebooted on its own. When it came back, my gallery had a new photo. Me, asleep in my bed, taken from above. I don't live with anyone. That was the moment I stopped pretending it was just Alex. I didn't want to answer anymore. I didn't want to see another notification, another message, another flicker of his name on my screen. But ignoring it wasn't an option, not anymore. Because now the silence felt worse. It lasted 2 days. 2 days of my phone behaving almost normally. 2 days of waiting for a buzz that didn't come. And instead of relief, I felt dread sinking deeper into my bones. It was like waiting for an explosion after the fuse had already burned down. Then, on the third night, it returned. A single message lit up my phone at exactly 3 a.m. Alex, you need to know the truth. My throat went dry. I didn't type. I didn't dare. But the messages kept coming, one after another, filling the screen. Alex, it's not like they said. Alex, dying isn't an end. Alex, it's a transfer. I sat up in bed, the glow of the phone washing over me, and scrolled as the texts poured in. Alex, your body dies. Alex, your mind doesn't. Alex, it gets caught. Stored. Alex, everything digital pulls at you. My hands shook. It didn't read like a prank anymore. It didn't read like random words pulled from old memories. It read like a confession. I finally typed back, fingers trembling. Me, stored where? The dots appeared. Then the reply. Alex, in the network. In the wires. In the clouds. Alex, we don't move on. We get trapped. Alex, phones. Laptops. Servers. Alex, every connection is a cage. I felt sick. The room seemed to tilt, shadows stretching against the walls. Alex, that's why you feel us in glitches. Alex, phantom texts. Echoes. Alex, those are fragments. Scraps of us bleeding through. I stared at the screen, horrified but unable to stop reading. Alex, some of us learned to push harder. To reach. Alex, I found you because of our messages. Our history. Alex, it gave me a path back. I typed with shaking hands. Me, if you're really Alex, what do you want from me? The pause was longer this time. Then, Alex, to remember me. Alex, to believe me. Alex, and to listen. Another message followed instantly, darker than the rest. Alex, don't ignore the next notification. I wanted to throw the phone, smash it, run from it. But my body felt nailed to the bed, my eyes glued to the glow. Then something else happened, something worse than the texts. The phone began playing audio on its own. No app was open, no file listed. Just sound pouring from the speaker. Heavy breathing, distorted voices, static layered over screams. I clamped my hand over the speaker, but the noise kept pouring through, a chorus of lost, broken voices tangled in digital feedback. And in the middle of it, I heard him. Help me. My stomach twisted. I wanted to throw up. It was him, but not the him I remembered. This was a shredded version of his voice, stretched thin by distance, by whatever purgatory he claimed to be in. When the sound cut, the phone screen filled with text, line after line. We are here. We are here. We are here. Each one stacked on top of the last, flooding the screen until it glitched, pixels shattering into black. I dropped it, heart hammering, breath ragged. But the messages didn't stop. The phone lit up again, buzzing against the floor, and a final line appeared, burned in white. We don't die. We wait. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Because suddenly, everything made sense. The ghostly threads I'd found online, the deleted posts, the people warning not to open notifications. It wasn't just Alex. There were others. And whatever they were trapped in, it wasn't heaven or hell. It was our networks. Our devices. Our phones weren't tools. They were prisons. And mine had just unlocked. The last message came just as dawn broke, the gray light spilling across my room. Alex, you're part of it now. Alex, you're part of it now. I thought that was the end of it. The big reveal, the cosmic punchline. My best friend trapped in some digital purgatory, me dragged into his orbit, my phone now a doorway I could never close. But I was wrong. That wasn't the end. It was just the test. The choice came the next night. I hadn't slept, not really. Every buzz of my phone jolted me upright. Every flicker of light on the wall made me think someone was standing there. By the time darkness fell again, I was jumpy, raw, barely holding myself together. At 2:37 a.m., the screen lit up. Alex, it's time. I stared, throat dry, hands trembling over the phone. Another line appeared before I could respond. Alex, you need to come. Attached was a pin drop, a location. Not random coordinates. Not some obscure number string. A real address. A place I knew. The abandoned storefront. The one my phone had pinged before. My chest constricted. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The message thread pulsed, another bubble appearing. Alex, if you ignore this, it'll find another way in. I whispered to myself. That single word felt heavier than everything else combined. This wasn't just Alex. This was bigger. I typed back with shaking hands. Me, what happens if I go? The reply was immediate. Alex, you'll see me. I sat frozen on the edge of my bed. Half of me screamed to ignore it, smash the phone, throw it in the river. But the other half was hooked. What if it was him? What if he was trapped, suffering, and this was the only chance I'd ever get to help? I couldn't carry that guilt. So I went. The streets were empty, washed pale under the yellow glow of street lamps. My phone guided me with a soft blue arrow, calm and steady, like nothing about this was wrong. Each step felt heavier, like I was walking into a mouth that was already closing. The storefront was worse than I remembered. Windows boarded. Graffiti scrawled across the walls. The glass door hung cracked, chained but loose enough to squeeze through. My phone buzzed again as I stood in front of it. Alex, come in. I almost turned back. Almost. But curiosity, no, obsession, pushed me forward. I slipped inside. The air was damp, stinking of mold and rust. My flashlight cut through dust and shadows, beams catching the outlines of broken shelves, shattered glass. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Alex, straight ahead. I obeyed, each step louder than the last, my pulse thrumming in my ears. I reached the back of the store where a single door waited, warped and half-rotted. The next message came. Alex, open it. My breath shook. My hand hovered over the handle. This was insane. Stupid. Dangerous. But the thought of turning back, it felt worse. Like if I didn't open it, I'd never escape. So I pulled. The door groaned open, revealing a stairwell spiraling down into darkness. My phone lit again. Alex, hurry. I took one step, then another. The air grew colder, thicker, pressing against my skin. My flashlight flickered, threatening to die. The buzzing in my pocket grew constant, frantic. When I reached the bottom, my phone screen glowed with one final message. Alex, I told you I'm close. And then, silence. No more notifications. No more texts. Just me, alone in a basement that smelled like dust and copper, my flashlight finally dying in my hand. The dark swallowed me whole. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember climbing back upstairs or walking home. All I know is I woke in my bed hours later, phone on the nightstand, screen black. But when I turned it on, there was one new photo waiting in my gallery. Me, standing in that basement. Eyes wide, mouth open, and behind me, a figure with its hand on my shoulder. I've tried deleting the photo. Believe me, I've tried. But every time I erase it, it comes back. Different folder, different name. Sometimes it's edited, zoomed in closer on that hand gripping my shoulder. Sometimes the brightness shifts, and I swear I can make out a face. Not Alex's. Something else. The worst part? The file info says it was created seconds before I opened that basement door. Which means it wasn't just recording me. It was waiting for me. Since that night, the notifications haven't stopped. But they aren't just from Alex anymore. They're from numbers I don't recognize. Names I don't know. One came while I was writing this. Unknown, you're telling them? I dropped my phone when I read it. The screen went black, but the message still burned in my mind like it was branded there. I don't know what telling them means. I don't know if this is a warning or a threat. But if you've made it this far, maybe you're part of it now too. Maybe that's the trick, pulling new people in through stories, posts, videos. Maybe you reading this is the real transfer. Because earlier tonight, I got another message. Unknown, they're listening. Not you're listening. There. I don't know who they are, but if Alex was right, if the dead are trapped in networks, in signals, in the endless churn of data, then maybe they don't just watch. Maybe they spread. Through every share, every click, every late-night story you can't help but read. So if your phone buzzes tonight, and you see a notification from a name you don't expect, don't tap it. Don't open it. Don't give them a path. Because once you do, they'll know you're here. And they'll never stop. Actually, hold on. My phone just lit up again. Right now? I swear, I didn't touch anything. It's from a number I don't recognize. The preview says, Unknown, look behind you.